Morning, we're live for agenda review. We have two agendas. We have a county commission agenda and fire district number one agenda for Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Manager Stoltz.
Good morning, Chairman and Commission. I'm just seeing if we've got who's all on Zoom here. Okay.
Oh, Commissioner Meitzner is on Zoom.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
All right. Nicole, public county news.
Good morning. For county news on Wednesday, we will talk again about the National Cleanup Day event at Sedgwick County Park. And then also Hispanic Heritage Month kicks off on Wednesday, and we will have a short video about that. And that's all I have.
On getting into the agenda, we have three proclamations: Project Access 25th Anniversary, Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, and Hispanic Heritage Month. We have a retirement, item F, that we will be recognizing. We have, under appointments, we have three resignations, two from Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board and one CAB. No
Actually, on that tab, it says fire district is actually District 5. Item I is District 5, not fire district.
I got you. Okay, we'll fix that.
Tab 5. Fifth district. There you go.
Okay. Two items of new business. Item J is a zone change, which we're anticipating some citizens coming in and talking. I think you've all been briefed on that by Scott. And then item K is a board of bids and contracts. We have a number of consent.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Something, please?
Go ahead.
On that zone change, I think Sarah sent out the tentative minutes of the CAB meeting from that regarding that issue. The CAB board cannot officially approve the minutes until this Monday, but the commissioners have an advance copy draft of the minutes of that because there was an extensive amount of participation. And I just thought if they want to see it for their background before officially being approved Monday night, in the meeting is, of course, our commission meeting is Wednesday. So you have a draft. If anybody's got any questions, you can come talk to me about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a number of consent items. Item L is a temporary construction easement for bridge cleanout project. There's no fiscal note on that. Item M and N deal with work at the bridges at the Nenasko River. Item M is a CIP amendment to move $500,000 over to that project, and Lynn is here to talk about that if there's questions. And then items N and O are cost share program applications for grant. Item N is almost a $300,000 grant from KDOT, and item O is a $480,000 grant from KDOT on.
Go back to M.
Yes, sir.
That's the bridge that's closed right now.
No, 391
That's the bridge that buckled.
that was the one that we had temporarily closed, but it did temporary repair. This is an amendment to allow us to get funds for the permanent repair at the end of the year.
Thank you.
Any questions about N or O also? Item T is a vacation request to reduce some setback, and I think it's for a citizen to add a detached garage. I don't know if Scott or Lynn want to talk about that, or if there's any questions. It went through MAPC. It was unanimously voted on. There was no problem with that. Item Q is a conditional use request for an accessory apartment in District 3, 215th West and 21st Street North. Item R is the construction laydown agreement that we have with JE Dunn. There's a lot of action down by Biomed if you've been by recently, but JE done. It wants to use a portion of our parking lot for the ComCare Crisis Center to stage to help build on that. And that will shrink in over time as we begin development on ComCare. This is the agreement for that. Okay, S, T, and U are all aging issues. S is a grant, and all of these are kind of renewal situations. S is a grant of $3,831,000 from Kansas Department of Aging. T is a vendor contract between Central Plains Agency and or CPAAA and St. Jude Home Care. That's a service that helps people stay in their homes. And U is a grant renewal for the community service group that works for the senior volunteer program. Item V is the actual agreement for what we've talked about historically, the mental health intervention team in May School, right? Yeah. Which we've discussed in the past. This is the agreement portion of that. And then W and X, and Steve sent an email out on this earlier today to commissioners. It is grant carryover budget. W is for juvenile comprehensive plan and X is for adult comprehensive plan. Steve is on Zoom. I don't know if there's questions for Steve, or Steve, if you want to give just a real quick high overview of that.
Sure. Good morning. These are leftover funds from reimbursements that offenders have paid for some services. So we carry over these funds, and every year we allocate the money and send the plan to KDOC. This year we are looking at using it for moving for juvenile field services and adult services for building repair and maintenance. If we don't spend all the money, it carries to the next year and we come up with another plan. So this is just an ongoing process of any leftover reimbursements we receive from clients.
The dollar amounts for juvenile, it's about 73,000, and for adult, it's about 61,000.
Yes.
How's that revenue generated? I might have missed that. Sorry.
It's reimbursements for charges from clients for things like UAs, electronic monitoring, supervision fees, and things like that.
Very good. Thank you, Steve.
Right, Rusty's got the microphone. Item Y is a grant renewal that is in on base and processing currently. It will be on before we publish this agenda. Rusty, you want to talk about it?
Sure. Julie's on, but I'll just say this is an annual grant. We've gotten it for years. This is federal money that comes to the state, and the state in turn passes that through to local emergency management departments. In order, the purpose that they cite is to provide some continuity and funding for planning and the work that emergency managements do at the local level. And so what this amounts to, it's basically going to be a flat amount from 2023, about $153,000. And it is essentially, it's a reimbursement. We budget for the positions in emergency management, and this is money that's coming in a year after the fact to reimburse a portion of those salaries. And we designate which employees and what portion of their salary this money will cover. So what we paid employees last year is being reimbursed to the amount of about $153,000 with the monies that we'll receive when this is approved. The amount had gone up previously. In years past, it was a little under $100,000. The last couple of years, they've increased that. And so it still goes to cover salaries, but with that increase, a little bit of that has been allocated to provide some monies for some training and exercises. And so, but the bulk of it goes to employee salaries, and that's what this is. And we should have all the paperwork to Sabrina so she can get it on in the packet this afternoon. Any other questions? And Julie's on, she can answer them.
Very helpful. Any questions? Thanks, Rusty.
Item Z is a clothing donation from ICT SOS to JIAC. ICT SOS helps with human trafficking, and this clothing donation is to help kids that are down at JIAC and that situation. Item AA is an interesting item. It's approval of a City of Clearwater Island annexation. I want Justin to talk on this just for a second. And then we can have further discussion if the commission wants to.
And actually, I was going to ask if Samantha Siang, our Assistant County Counselor, she's the one who's been working on this one. So I'll ask her if she can make a couple of comments on it. Or I didn't know if any commissioners had any questions. I'll kind of head it up by saying this is an island annexation by the City of Clearwater. As I understand it, it's about within the subdivision, about the 17th one in a series that we've done over the last few years. It's kind of property by property as it comes up. But Samantha may be able to address some of the legal considerations on this as well.
In terms of when this is, when a city wants to annex, do a island annexation like this, the board has to make a vote and make a finding and determination that the annexation of the land will not hinder or prevent the proper growth and development of the area, or that any of any other incorporated city located within the county. So that's the only finding that we would need to make. Clearwater is providing all of the access, all of the services, including fire. And the main reason that this annexation is occurring is because they want to develop and build a house on that area. And the issue is within this area, there's insufficient on-site potable water.
Okay. That's helpful, Samantha. Justin, just out of curiosity, these are series of annexations. Why don't they just annex all of it now?
That's a good question, Chairman. Part of it comes up traditionally on these. This is the somewhat unique. We don't see this across the county very much. My understanding is that, 99 times out of 100, when a plat is developed, the city will insist on the entire plat being annexed into that city when they provide the water and sewer, like Samantha was mentioning. For some reason, in this case, Clearwater years ago didn't do that. The property owner, one of the things that's required on an island annexation is the property owner has to consent to the annexation. In this case, I don't think the developer wanted to consent to island annexation.
Until he was ready to develop.
And so as people buy parcels and want to build a house, they want water and sewer, so they need to island annex. And so that's, we don't have the ability to just go in and island annex it against the property owner's wishes. So I think that explains. Does that answer your question, Chairman?
It does. I get it. I'm just, go ahead.
This is
Yeah, please.
just the long ago issue that affected both sides. This is an issue that affected both sides of 135th long ago. And basically, Justin kind of hit the nail on the head. The developer didn't want to have island annexation. And what this does is those specials that would have been paid off by now never occurred because they're doing it lot by lot. So only that owner, when they build a house, then get the specials. And that was, like I said, about since the time I've been here, it's been going on, and the lots have sold very slowly over the years.
Can I ask a couple questions about it? Because originally we used to have it on the regular part of the agenda. Because it happened so often, we moved it to consent. But how many more lots, how many more times are we going to have to do this? How many are left?
And Commissioner, I actually looked at the GIS map before the meeting, and I believe there's in this subdivision, about 13 additional lots. And the other one that Lynn just mentioned, it looks like there's a similar number. So, I mean, it's possible that a couple dozen times the board could be considering these, but yeah, I mean, you're correct in terms of, because I did a lot of those presentations where we put it on new business, and there's nothing there is a requirement on this that you have 4 votes in favor in order to make the finding to support the island annexation occurring. But otherwise, there's no reason that absolutely has to go on new business, certainly can. But that's why we had switched it. And that's why it's proposed as a consent agenda now, but obviously we can put this on new business. That's the will of any of the commissioners as well.
So how much does it cost the county to do this every time, to staff it, to put it on the agenda, to vote on it? What is the cost to have?
I don't think the cost is that high, just because these are pretty simple, to be honest, in terms of the amount of time. It's our office is kind of the staff on annexations. Typically, we process the agenda items, prepare them, and we reach out to staff. So there is attorney time, but it's not additional cost because obviously salaried. But you're right, there is some cost. It should be hard to estimate it exactly. But I don't think there's a whole lot of other staff time usually spent on these. But you're right, it is more than if it had happened, as Lynn was saying, a couple decades ago, that was all in one fell swoop, it would have been.
So what happens
faster.
if we start denying it just so that we can push them into doing something?
I think we could talk more about what that would look like, but I would certainly encourage your findings to be based on the statute, and any comments or recommendations Samantha may make if she presents this or that are in the agenda.
How much is it saving the developer each time to do this?
I really don't think it probably saves them very much money because the property is undeveloped, so the tax rate would be really low. I can't see that there's much of a benefit. That's why I think developers would traditionally agree to a full-on, and cities would usually insist upon a full-on annexation in one item instead of doing it piecemeal, just because these properties aren't taxed very high because they're vacant. It's when they get the houses built, which is also when they become inside the city limits and get the island annexation, when the taxable value really accrues.
So can we just defer this and go back to Clearwater and say, what is your intention? Do you want us to continue doing this, or do you want us to start voting against it?
I'd have to think some more about other options, and maybe, we can think about that and get back to you. I would say to a certain degree, I think Clearwater's current city council is maybe in a situation where they don't have as many options because they didn't do this a couple decades ago, where they are limited in being able to force the annexation in any way. I think their hands are somewhat tied now.
But I just soon defer it. I'm tired of these. We've done it over and over and over again. I would rather us go back to the city of Clearwater and say, you all need to start taking some action on this rather than requiring us to staff this every time, put it on the agenda, vote on it. Thank you.
Can someone please explain the issue of the special assessment? You were talking about whether they're in the city or not in the city. How was that special assessment different?
It's our understanding, and like I said, I'm getting this a little secondhand from years and years ago, but they are not applying specials for the water and sewer service, or at least water. I don't know if they have sewer, but definitely water, until they are actually putting a house on the lot and actively using it. And that way, the unsold lot for the last 10 years, that isn't being paid. Usually what happens is the developer pays for those specials the first, if it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years to sell the lot. The way they've have done it is waited for the house to actually, building permits to be pulled and then annex it in there. The one thing I will note, when this came up, I did take a look at the ownership of the lots that were not annexed yet, and the majority have been bought. They are not developer, but they have not yet built a house. So that might be something to consider with this, maybe annexation of those lots that are, and I'm speaking out of turn, Justin can comment on this, but maybe we might recommend talking to Clearwater about all the lots that have been bought should be annexed.
So is it did the city of Clearwater provide the bonds to do the infrastructure improvements initially, and the bonds have been paid off by Clearwater, and these special assessments and then go back and pay Clearwater back? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't, like I said, that goes back far enough. I would have to research that.
I'm going to assume someone paid for the infrastructure, so it's out there, and whoever that was needs to get paid back. So
It's a gravel
I don't know that I
road.
like this idea of deferment. That seems to me that's being abused, if that's what's going on here.
Being that they're gravel roads, most likely that is the investment the developer made.
Okay. Just one of the lots, I don't know about all the lots, but one of the lots I looked at yesterday, it had a assessed value, but like $65. And the tax value we're talking about, the difference between being in the unincorporated versus being in the city of Clearwater, it's not very much money at all. The difference in those two things on a $65 assessed value lot, it's just not worth. And I added up yesterday, I think it was around just a little bit less than 30 lots altogether on the two sides of 135th that potentially I think should be probably annexed at this point. So I agree with the previous comments. I think we have a problem here. And I like the idea of this. Again, it's obviously controversial. It doesn't belong on consent. That's the first thing I'll say. But second of all, I'm inclined to say we need to have a conversation with Clearwater, because this is this is getting, I think this hinges on abuse of the city of Clearwater or someone.
Chairman, I think it could be worth having a discussion. So I wasn't trying to say we couldn't do that. And I'd turn it to Sam, but I think there's a timing component we have to make findings by, right?
Yes, statute requires that we have to make a finding within 30 days of receiving the resolution from the city indicating that they want the island annexation.
What is that, Ryan?
This was, hold on. I think they sent it to us on August 28th.
We have a meeting on next Wednesday, and then that's it for the month.
I guess my thought, Chairman, Commissioner Howell, kind of some of those discussions is you'll take whatever action you'll take on the item. I think that's your last regularly scheduled meeting within the 30-day time frame. But I think for future items, because as Commissioner Howell was noting, there are roughly 30 lots there between those two. And also, like Lynn was saying, if you've got more than one party, and there are multiple parties besides the original developer, and that's a change from a few years ago when I think they owned almost all the lots that were undeveloped, then maybe the city could kind of move to get some of those island annexed and get it cleaned up, because it would be more efficient. And that's a discussion that could happen.
I don't know how we'd handle it operationally with this. I mean, I'm sure it's fire district, so that's not the issue, but it's police and all the other services. You'd have one neighbor and next neighbor having, I mean, I don't know how we'd handle this operationally without doing the entire, I think it's worth talking to Clearwater. We just got a timing problem now to.
So I found out something interesting as I was doing some work on this. The Ninneskog Township has this in their town. This is a township area. And surprisingly, those that are unincorporated are paying around 16 mils total. And of that 16 mils, about 5.5 mils goes to a fire district. It's a volunteer fire district. This is not in fire district number 1 for Sedgwick County.
Volunteer then. Okay.
So this does not impact Sedgwick County Fire District taxes. It does impact Clearwater. Clearwater has around a 60-ish mil city mill levy, and they have a volunteer fire department for Clearwater. And so, interestingly enough, even if it's annexed, they still pay a 0.93 mil to the Ninneskog Township for its general taxes to the township for some type of services that the township provides to all the residents in the township, even inside the city. So there's a 0.93 mil that goes to the Ninneskog Township. That's not for fire. For those unincorporated, it's about 5.5 mils roughly for the Ninneskog Township volunteer fire department. So this is a little bit different. I now find out there's actually 4.5 townships in the county. The Union Township is half and half. 4.5 townships in the county are similar to this one. This is one of those 4.5, where they have a township volunteer fire department that do not pay fire district taxes. So I think related to this, maybe not exactly this item here, but I want to have a discussion about that issue, because I think we need to set ourselves up to, and I know Commissioner Dennis has talked about this before. Yes. Now I've realized how bad this has gotten. I think that we need to set ourselves up to wean them off of the fire district. Maybe my thought is give them a year to come on board. And if they don't, then we need to change our policy. We should be a second alarm call response only, because they are not providing services. We're providing services for them, and they're not paying taxes. This is unconstitutional. These people are getting depending on services paid for by other taxpayers. We cannot let that happen. So I want to solve this. And I think right now we do not have a good understanding exactly across the county who's in the district and who's not in the district, because I did not know about the 4.5 townships until just a couple of days ago. And to me, this is way worse than I thought it was. Now that I realize that this has to be dealt with. And so this is another discussion that has to happen.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, 1 second, there's a lot of these issues being raised right now. I agree. So we need to collaborate, obviously, our fire chiefs here in a separate discussion of what that looks like to educate us. If we can put that down as a note that we need to have that discussion. Second thing is I think there's a time constraint here on this specific line item. I think we do need to have this discussion about what's happening down in Clearwater and all these island annexations. The question is, do we want to, because of the time restraint, do we want to pass this and then let them know that we need to fix the entire thing now moving forward, that we're done with these? I think that's what we need to consider is on this line item in particular, because of the time restraint, do we want to create an undue burden or not? And statutorily, can we create an undue burden? So 2 notes there that I think we need some follow-up discussions on. Commissioner Dennis.
Well, there's 2 subjects. One, I think that we need staff to immediately get a hold of Bert User down in Clearwater and find out what their plans are for the future. And you can at least let us know at the next board meeting what their plans are. And at that point, we can make our concerns known publicly that they're going to have to do something because we're not going to go along with this much longer. But the second issue that Commissioner Howell brought up is one that I've been talking about for a long time. And that's that we're taxing people and then giving the services free to other people. And I've been against that all along. I've thought for the last 8 years that we need to get rid of all these mutual aid agreements that we've got with these different townships that are getting free services because of these agreements. I've been pushing for that for a long time, and I'm going to continue to push it because it is absolutely not right to charge property tax to some citizens and then use that tax to give the services to other citizens for free.
Rusty, could you get us a list at some point in the next week or so of what those mutual aid agreements and auto aid agreements look like and who the townships and who the cities are that we are not paying into the fire district, but we are on those types of agreements? Could you get us some of that information?
Yeah, we can get some information.
Appreciate it. Okay.
So back to this item, solution might be to pull it out, consent, put it on a new business.
Let's do that.
Tell the mayor it's going to be on new business, invite him to come. I guess, Justin, maybe you'd present and the mayor could be there and we can talk about that.
Yeah, might reach out to their council too, just to let them know what's happening and see if we can get an idea.
We'll do that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're in double alphabet. Item A, B is, and Alora's online. I'm sure she'd be glad to talk about this. It's a reclass, her continuing modification to the 911 workforce. She is downgraded a major position and created a 911 workforce specialist. And Alora, do you want to talk to this just a little bit of what this position is going to do for you?
Absolutely. Thank you. Elora Forshee, your Director of Emergency Communications. So if you guys can recall back to our budget presentation for our 2025 budget, we continue to focus on recruitment as we want to keep staffed to avoid issues we've had in previous years. And then also just really focused on retention. We want to keep that talent. We want to keep the skill set and keep growing folks. And so this position is really going to be focused on those 2 facets. They'll manage the hiring process, the recruitment team that we have internally, and then looking at trends, working with the onboarding process, liaising with staff as they are through those first months of employment to make sure that we have them and that they are comfortable and feeling good settling into this. They'll be working with staff that have been here to look at retention, what's working, what's not when we do exit interviews. And then there's also a public education piece of it. So we have a lot of community events that we could be attending, neighborhood association meetings, things like that. We have found it really important over the last year or so to make sure that we are telling our story and that our story is not being told by others. We are doing a lot of great work here. And so we need somebody that can highlight that out in the community. So that's what this position would be tasked with, amongst other things.
Yeah, thank you. Very good questions. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Items AC through AL are all records destructions that are timed. And we'll proceed through. We go through this at the end of every year. And the rest of the general agenda is routine business. There is a fire agenda. And in addition to minute approval, there is one consent item on there. And I think Chief Williams has talked with all of you about his captain reclassification. Chief is here today if there's any questions for him. We do have an exec session, I think, too, right, Justin? Okay.
We do. Okay. Just one, right? Okay, good.
That's it.
Okay, boy, that's a lot on the consent agenda. Any questions on the county commission or the fire district agendas for Friday, for next week? Okay, seeing none. Anything else, Tom?
Good.
Okay, I think we're good to go. Everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you.